أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم محمد عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين منذ آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم. قال تعالى في محكم التنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: إنا كل شيء خلقناه بقدر. Allah Azza wa Jal says, surely we have created everything according to a measure. Over the past few nights we've been talking about these divine laws, these divine universal and historic laws that Allah Azza wa Jal has placed in the Holy Quran, and we said that these laws is Allah's way of showing us basically how things work, how He's going to work with us. It's a roadmap. He's given us codes, He's given us the laws, He's given us the equations, letting us know that, oh my creation, this is how I deal with you. This is how I go about organizing your affairs. Okay? And it's not only limited to the creation, to human beings and their movement, but there are laws and equations put in place by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order for Him to govern. And it's not necessary. He doesn't need these laws. We need these laws. But He's put them in place as a general ruling for you and I, and it rules over the entire cosmos. And it is essential that we unlock these laws and we understand them so that we know how to operate, or what Allah Azza wa Jal expects from us, in order for Him to bestow certain bounties upon us, and in order for us to work with Allah Azza wa Jal in the means which He intended. The verse we open up with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us that He created everything, all things, and when He created all things, He put in place a particular measure. And this particular measure is saying, He's saying to us, this is how I operate. In everything I've created, I have put in a law, I have programmed it, and I work with it in a particular way. And this comes in response to a misconception which unfortunately still exists until today, even though Allah Ta'ala is explicit in the Holy Quran and explained to us how He works. And it's a misconception which has to do with the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. Before Islam and after Islam, there are those who have misunderstood Allah Azza wa Jal and assumed that Allah Azza wa Jal's will means that He, this is unfortunate, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predestined every single one of us to behave in a particular way. That all behaviors and all actions are attributed to Allah Azza wa Jal. And unfortunately, this led some to attribute even evil and oppression to Allah Azza wa Jal. He said, if everything is from Allah and Allah Azza wa Jal is the initial cause of all things, so even evil actions, even bad deeds are attributed to Allah Azza wa Jal. And we saw the Umayyad propaganda machine push for this doctrine and this belief immediately after the killing of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad la'natullah alayh says to Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam, he asks her a very hurtful question. He says to her, how did you find what Allah Azza wa Jal did to your brother? Attributing the atrocities committed in Karbala, he attributed them to who? To Allah Azza wa Jal. He said, to Allah is the one that killed your brother. And Zainab alayha salam, as we said in the earlier nights, being the daughter of the Holy Quran, was able to answer this question and say to him, it was you who killed my brother, not Allah. Not Allah. Because Zainab salamullahi alayha, being the daughter of the Holy Quran, she knows that Allah Azza wa Jal, when He created all things, He put in measures. These measures, this law of cause and effect, which is the law we're discussing tonight, she understands that Allah Azza wa Jal has informed me in the Holy Quran that everything has a measure. And your actions are your actions. Yes, Allah Azza wa Jal has put in place the law that fire burns. Allah Azza wa Jal made this law. He made it so that fire burns. Fire is the cause and the result is what? The effect is burning. Okay? That a knife will cut. But if I take a knife and I cut you, it doesn't mean that Allah Ta'ala is the one that cut you. Yeah? And there is the famous story attributed to Ahlul. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Most of you probably have. But this story attributed to Ahlul, it's reported that Ahlul is a student and a companion of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. And after the demise of Imam As-Sadiq salamullahi alayhi, he's approached by Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa, he says to him, condolences on the departing of our teacher, Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, but there are a few points I disagree with Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam on. He says, what are they? He says the first thing, that he attributes the actions of the creation to themselves and not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all actions are attributed to him. It is his will and his desire, and all actions belong to Allah ta'ala. He says, okay. What's the second thing? He says, second thing is, he says that Allah Azza wa Jal cannot visibly be seen. And how can we worship, or how can I believe in the existence of that which cannot be visibly seen? He says, okay. He says, and what's the third? He said the third thing is that he says that Iblis will be punished in Jahannam, in fire, like human beings. But Iblis is made out of fire. How can the fire harm him? Ahlul then takes a clay brick and he hits him over the head with it. Cracks him right in the head with it. This is according to this report. He's gone, he's run off to the authorities. Ahlul is arrested, they're brought before the judge. What's the story? I was having a discussion with him. The guy took a clay brick and he smacked me in the head with it. Judge looks at Ahlul and says, Ahlul, did you do this? He says, look, first of all, this guy believes that all actions are attributed to Allah. So it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who smacked him with the brick, not me. He should take Allah to court, right? He says, second of all, he says he doesn't believe in things he doesn't see, and he claims he's in pain. I can't see his pain. So his pain doesn't exist. So then the third thing, he says that Iblis cannot be punished in the fire of hell because it's made out of fire. Well, apparently I hit him with a clay brick and he's made out of clay. So it shouldn't affect him at all by this logic. This type of theology, the enemies of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, intended in their propaganda machine to spread this theology and say that Allah Azza wa Jal is the cause and the perpetrator of all actions. In order to justify and to free themselves from their atrocious behavior and their crimes and their massacres. And unfortunately, until today, we still have a small group of Muslims who still believe in this. This theological discussion is not our place, inshallah. What we're going to discuss is, how does Allah Azza wa Jal actually work? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responsible for our actions? Or is Allah Azza wa Jal free of these actions? And when we discuss these laws, these divine laws, we can only go back to the words of Allah Azza wa Jal to see what He says. The common theme, inshallah, for time's sake, I'm going to need to summarize a lot. If we go to the Quran, the Holy Quran, we'll see how Allah Azza wa Jal has responded to this. But unfortunately, there are groups of Muslims who have perfected the recitation of the Holy Quran and all the laws of tajweed and all the ahkam of tajweed and tartil and all of this, and have beautiful voices, and this is where they stop. This is their relationship with the Holy Quran. And in the past we saw that this is very dangerous. We saw that the Khawarij, for example, were reciters of the Holy Quran. They'd recite the Holy Quran. They understood nothing. Ibn Muljam's recitation of the Holy Quran led him to killing Al-Quran and Natiq Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. If you stop there, yes, we must learn the ahkam of tajweed. We must be reciting the Holy Quran, but not stop there. The Quran is not a book of hymns that we just recite. Okay? The recitation is the beginning. This is the door. But if you do not continue on the pondering and then on the application and manifesting these verses, then you have killed the Holy Quran. And this is also a result of abandoning the living, talking Quran, which is Muhammad wa al-Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. When the Holy Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi commanded us to hold on to the two weighty things. Okay, al-thaqalain. It's a clear equation. The Book of Allah and the Holy Progeny, he says. And he says, they will not leave one another until they meet me at the fountain of Al-Kawthar. So the Holy Messenger is emphasizing that we should not abandon either one. If you take one without the other, you head towards deviation. And we saw this in the history of Islam. And we see it today. Those who held on to the Quran and abandoned Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. What ended up happening to them? They moved away from the Quran and from Islam. They interpreted the Quran according to their own whims and their own desires. And then there are those who abandon the Quran and claim that they're going to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And this led to exaggeration in the status of Al-Muhammad alayhi salam, which is kufr. When we speak about the thaqalain, we need to look at it like a bird with two wings. A bird cannot fly with one wing. They need to go hand in hand. And this is a control that Allah Ta'ala put in place so we don't fall into the same deviations of the people of the book before us. This is deliberate. Allah Azza wa Jal deliberately, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala doesn't do anything, as we say, abath, yeah? It's all from His wisdom. His wisdom dictated that these two weighty things do not leave one another. And they are essential. Each one is as important as the next. Because the nations before us corrupted their holy books. And we need to start getting into the habit of engaging the books of the past and the books of Ahlul Kitab. Number one, this gives us yaqeen, more yaqeen in our Quran. Okay? Second of all, if you are faced with any misconception by the people of Ahlul Kitab, yeah, you are capable, you are able to refute these misconceptions. And all you need to do is simply open the current Bible we have today, which is split into two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament, meaning the Old Law, which is the first 5 books of the Torah, yeah? And the New Testament, which is supposed to be telling us about the life of Jesus alayhi salam, plus some letters to the Corinthians, and then in the end there's a dream. Some guy had a dream, literally, and they made the book of Revelation. These books, how they came apart, you talk to your Christian brothers and sisters today, maybe even have a quick Google search. They're compiled by human beings hundreds of years after Isa ibn Maryam. There was literally a council. There was a council. One of many councils formed. And they collected hundreds of gospels and they said, we'll accept this and we'll reject this. And we'll accept this and we'll reject this. And then they compiled what we have today as the Bible. Allah Azza wa Jal intended for the Holy Quran to be protected by Muhammad wa al-Muhammad. So the living... Inshallah. But this isn't our topic, inshallah, for time's sake. But it was very important to shed light on this. How does Allah Azza wa Jal work? What is the law of cause and effect? Is everything solely attributed to Allah Azza wa Jal or not? Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala answers. Let's see how Allah Azza wa Jal simply talking about the issue of rain. When he talks about rain, what does Allah Azza wa Jal say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to us, he says in Surah Luqman, he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ السَّاعَةِ وَيُنَزِّلُ الْغَيْثِ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ. He says that it is Allah Azza wa Jal who has knowledge of the day of judgment. And it is He who brings down the rain. And it is He who knows what is in the wombs of women. So He attributes the bringing down of rain to Himself. But then He says, no, look at this. Yes, it is I who brings down the rain. But how do I bring down the rain? He says, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُزْجِي سَحَابًا ثُمَّ يُؤَلِّفُ بَيْنَهُ. This is in Surah An-Nur. Allah Azza wa Jal says, do you not see that Allah drives along the clouds, then gathers them together, then piles them up, so that you see the rain coming forth from their midst, and He sends down off the clouds that are like mountains, wherein is hail afflicting therewith. So in the first verse, Allah Azza wa Jal is telling you simply, it is I who brings down the rain. In the second verse, He's giving you the law of cause and effect. He's telling you, how do I bring down the rain? I bring down the rain like this. So we have three factors here. We have the primary cause, which is Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah Azza wa Jal's role is to put in the controls and the law. What is the law for rain? Is that there is precipitation and there are clouds formed, and then these clouds, they condense and then they bring down rain. This is how Allah Azza wa Jal is operating. And the third is the natija, the result, which is rain. This comes into play in our daily lives. If you and I do not understand cause and effect, and that this is how Allah Azza wa Jal works, then I cannot understand tawakkul. I cannot understand how I'm supposed to rely on Allah Azza wa Jal. Through a verse like this, Allah Azza wa Jal is saying to you, yes, I am the initial cause of all things, but I have given you equations. I have given you a system. If you do not work within this system, you will fail. And this applies to believers and disbelievers, to all of Allah Azza wa Jal's creation. They are all submitting, and they all must submit to these laws of cause and effect. Even the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal and the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal had to work by these laws of cause and effect. Allah Ta'ala requires an effort. And He shows you both sides. On one instance, He says to you, وَأَعَدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Prepare for the enemies, or muster for them what you can of might. Get yourselves ready, get yourselves prepared. And when we, in the coming nights, discuss the law of victory, how Allah Azza wa Jal gives victory to the believers, we'll talk more about this. He tells you to prepare. You must prepare yourself. But on the other hand, then what's He say to you? He says victory is from Allah. So your duty is to work within the frame of these laws. Your duty is to work within the frame of these equations. This is your responsibility. This is your taklif. The result is on Allah Azza wa Jal. Don't worry about it. So proper tawakkul is to have faith in these controls of cause and effect. That, Ya Allah, I did what was required of me. I can't sit at home. Oh Allah, give me children, and I'm not even married. Where are you going to get children from, Habibi? Yeah? It's impossible. Is Allah Azza wa Jal capable? Yes, He's capable. He can give you. But Allah Ta'ala is telling you, I don't want you to work like this. You know, we see Sayyidah Maryam alayha salam in two instances. We see Sayyidah Maryam alayha salam as a child in the mihrab of Zakaria. Allah Azza wa Jal is doing what? Zakaria would come and find what with Maryam? He would find food, fruits that Allah Azza wa Jal would give to Maryam alayhi salam. But when Maryam alayhi salam was now matured and now she's suffering the pains of birth and giving birth to Isa alayhi salam, and she is struggling to the point where she wishes death upon it. Ya laytani mittu qabla hadha wa kuntu nasiyan mansiya, Maryam alayhi salam says. Was Allah Azza wa Jal capable of giving her sustenance like He did in the mihrab of Zakaria alayhi salam or not? Sure, He was. Does He? No. He says to Maryam alayhi salam, Maryam, shake the tree. Shake the tree, Maryam, and fruits will fall. And eat from them. It's very easy. Even Kalimullah, Musa alayhi salam, all the miracles that Allah Ta'ala gave him, which also these miracles are subjected to the laws of cause and effect. The only difference is that Allah Azza wa Jal, in some instances, would speed them up. But even Musa alayhi salam, he gets to the ocean. Allah Azza wa Jal could have opened the ocean for Musa alayhi salam. Musa would just keep going through. What's he say to Musa salamullah? He says to him, strike with your staff. Take your staff, Ya Musa. I require effort. I require action, Ya Musa. If there's no action, Ya Musa, I'm not going to give you a result. This small stick, strike this large ocean and I'll open it for you. I'll open the ocean for you. It requires effort. With Dhul Qarnayn, Allah Azza wa Jal could have provided for him weaponry. He could have provided it for Dhul Qarnayn. But what he says to Dhul Qarnayn, he says, Dhul Qarnayn, I have descended from the skies steel, meaning through, we all know where steel has now come from, yeah? It's through foreign objects from space that have fallen onto Earth billions of years ago. Go and forge this steel. I'll teach you to forge the steel. But you go and forge the steel. Once I begin to understand the codes that Allah Azza wa Jal has given me, not just for material purposes, but even for my spiritual reasonings. Allah Azza wa Jal gives me stations in the Holy Quran and says to me, you want this spiritually, then you need to do this. Nothing is for free. If everything was for free and I was to eliminate, or Allah Azza wa Jal was to take off this law of cause and effect, then we'd be in Jannah. Khalas, we don't need to do anything. But Allah Azza wa Jal is telling you, no, I need you to work within this framework. This is how I deal with you. Sallu ala Muhammad. So when it comes to salvation, and when it comes to our role today, in understanding eternal salvation, and understanding how Allah Azza wa Jal will deliver us, it is necessary to understand that salvation and delivery and forgiveness is all subjected to this law of Allah Azza wa Jal. That to sit back and pray, Allahumma ajjal li waliyyika al-faraj, is not enough. This is not enough. Yeah? We said last night, those before you did the same thing. The people of Kufa at the time did the same thing. Did they not send Allahumma ajjal li waliyyika al-faraj to Imam al-Hussein? But because they were not willing to put in the effort, it led to what? The slaughtering of Abu Abdullah. I cannot want to be from the party of Allah Azza wa Jal if I am not willing to put in the effort. Never in the Holy Quran has Allah Azza wa Jal said to us that Iman is enough. More often than not, when we read about faith in the Holy Quran, what do we say? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Otherwise, to just have this belief, Iblis, does Iblis know of the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal or not? He knows of his existence, maybe more than myself. Yeah? He's aware that Allah Azza wa Jal is there. But just having that information will never save Iblis. In fact, having that information and not putting in the effort, the correct effort that is required, will lead Iblis to his damnation. So when I have the knowledge and I am convinced and I have yaqeen in the existence of Allah Ta'ala, and I claim and I assume that Allah Azza wa Jal is one and that His Holy Messenger is Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, And then his vicegerent is Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and his book is the Holy Quran. When I have all of these convictions, this can work against me if I don't act on it. Allah Azza wa Jal now has a reason to say, hey, you knew, you had the information, you had the data. I even gave you the codes. I said to you that if you want success, do this. I said to you that 1 + 1 = 2. And we see this a lot, even sometimes in the hawza, yeah? You see that maybe someone is very excelled in their studies, mashallah, yeah? They ace all of their exams. But if there's no practical manifestation, if this manifestation isn't applied outwardly, if Allah Azza wa Jal, because then Allah Azza wa Jal says to you that knowledge is what? Knowledge is a light, it's a nur that Allah Azza wa Jal puts in your heart. If there's no tawfiq for actual knowledge, which is this nur, yeah, then this knowledge will send you to Jahannam. It will create for you several spiritual diseases. Ujub, riya, jealousy, all of this stuff, this knowledge can destroy you. If you have not worked to tame yourself in order to be an appropriate vessel of this knowledge, everything needs effort, everything needs to submit to the law of cause and effect. How much time do we have left? 5 minutes. Sallu ala Muhammad. So just to wrap this up, we need to be very careful, even in our daily lives, yeah? Because how many times do we hear this? We're guilty of this. Why, Allah? Why did you do this to me? What have I done that you did this to me? We need to be careful here of accusing Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not oppress His creation, never. Even if He places you in Jahannam, there is no oppression. It is you. Allah Azza wa Jal is very clear here. He says in the Holy Quran, and we have not oppressed them, but surely it is they who have oppressed themselves. This is a result of your actions. We said that these laws, there is a reaction. How you interact with them, depending on how you interact with them, there is a particular reaction. The law that Allah Azza wa Jal has placed, He says to you, obey me, live a good life, have a proper belief system, have proper akhlaq, manifest this belief system. And then with Allah Azza wa Jal's mercy, you will be saved on the day of resurrection. But if you are wretched and you are ignoring the signs of Allah Azza wa Jal, and you are neglectful and you are an oppressor, when I say oppressor, you're an oppressor first of yourself, or even an oppressor of your family, of your children, of your wife, of your husband. Yeah, sisters oppress husbands too. Then I cannot say to Allah, why did you do this to me? Very briefly, very quickly. Many times we see this. I mentioned this last night, but many times we see this. I want to emphasize on this. When I do not give priority to my religion, I don't give priority to my religion. My priority growing up or raising a family is to make sure that my children go to the best schools and have the best education and wear the best clothes and are successful in the dunya, and I push them. This is all good. Yeah, good. We need to be educated. All of this stuff. But if I prioritize it over religion, over their God-fearingness, if I give it priority over their relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal and their identity, in the future, when my children are bombarded by all of these false ideologies on the outside, who do I have to blame? Turn around and say, why Allah? Why did this happen to my child? Why is my son or daughter now an alcoholic or addicted to drugs? Or got mixed up in the whole gender confusion issue? Why? And you come to Mawlana, Sheikh, do something. Do something. Now? You want me to do something? After what, Habib? After you drove them, Allah Azza wa Jal gave you a clear equation. Nasullah fa'ansahum anfusahum. They forgot Allah. So Allah Azza wa Jal made them forget themselves. It's not that Allah Azza wa Jal made them forget themselves And then they forgot. No, they forgot Allah first. This is a result of your actions. And on the day of judgment, we will see the repercussions of my actions, of my decisions, my interactions with these laws of Allah. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us amongst those who understand these universal laws and interact with them in a way which pleases Him and in a way which delivers us from the hands of Iblis and delivers us from the hands of temptation and destruction. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali baytihi at-tayyibin.